Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Construction Record Podcast. I'm digital media editor Warren Frey, and with me today I have.
I'm Jordan Baptiste. I'm the managing director at Creative Fire, based here in Saskatoon, Treaty 6 territory, homeland of the Métis.
And I'm Mazyar Mortazavi, President and CEO of TAS, based in Toronto, and leading a impact platform that uses real estate as a tool to drive positive change.
Okay, let's start, Jordan, with what Creative Fire is, and then we'll go into what TAS is as well. But first to you, Jordan.
Yeah, Creative Fire is a community-owned strategy advisory consultancy. We also have a creative lens to how we tell stories both externally and internally within organizations. Our focus is really on reconciliation work across the country in both the corporate sector and also with public and private practices.
So at TAS, we are a real estate platform that leverages real estate as a tool to drive positive impact. We operate as developers, asset managers, and a private equity vehicle where we sort of align investors whose values are shared with ours to drive positive outcomes through the work that we do.
And the reason we're talking today is because TAS has come up with the TAS Reconciliation Action Plan with a lot of input from Creative Fire. So either of you could start as to what the plan actually is and what it's intended to do.
Yeah, I'm happy to kick off from that standpoint. The Reconciliation Action Plan that we launched earlier this month is really tied to an evolution of our impact framework and looking at how we're able to take the lessons that we've learned through our collaboration with the Indigenous community and develop a framework for it that gives us both a set of guidelines as to how we advance the work that we do, but also provides the framework for accountability. And while this is an internal document, we've made it public as part of our continued effort to really help transition the industry in the way that we do things to drive the impact that we want to have. And we partnered with Creative Fire on this, and that's the collaboration piece that brings Jordan and I's respective organizations together. So Jordan, over to you.
Yeah, I think what makes this special is having two organizations that have a similar value system that, is kind of that generational perspective and value to bring to projects. And you kind of look at the landscape of Canada, and there's such a strong population and influence of Indigenous people, and any project moving forward is going to have that Indigenous influence and people around it. So an organization like TAS, the way that they view this is leaving something behind for the future and being keepers of the land ultimately. So the value systems were aligned, and when that happens, it creates a special opportunity to create a unique plan. So one that's driven by Indigenous thought leaders and individuals, one that has the input of the people that will be around this project. So the fact that you have an organization like TAS that values these things, it really makes for a special piece of work, and ultimately it's going to create special relationships that go beyond beyond just this project and into the future.
And Jordan, when we were talking off mic, you mentioned how your approach, or Creative Fire's approach, is quantifiable, stuff like KPIs, like increasing accountability through actual data, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And I think too, the fact is, Maz and his team also, want to ensure that this is progressive and evolving. And, you have to monitor these things. In order to get from point A to point B, you also have to be able to look back. You have to have the ability to pivot. And I think the fact is that they're holding themselves accountable to this as well. And that's important. So creating those KPIs that maybe they think are important as an organization may differ from how the community views it as well. So when I think about, how this plan has come together from, a cohesive perspective, it really, creates something special in which, everyone can really succeed in this. So I think that's really where, when we are able to build these plans, we want to draw all of those great things from both organizations and the people around it to really, make something special.
And Mazyar, this plan, it's been created. Has it been applied anywhere yet? And if so, where? And if not, how does one go about doing that?
I think what's interesting with the plan is that the plan in and of itself is a moment in time. We started doing quite a bit of collaborative work with a number of different Indigenous communities several years ago. And so it's not as though this was from a standstill position. It was actually the learnings through our engagement that helped to inform the the framework into what it is today,
Mm-hmm.
it was through the collaboration with Creative Fire that we were able to put in a framework in place that is that takes from our learnings, but also it provides further teachings. And most importantly, is that it's part of a journey that will continue to evolve and will continue to iterate. And I think that's a really, really key part of this. And whether we talk about our impact framework or whether we talk about our reconciliation action plan, these are not fixed moments in time, but they become frameworks and guides to be able to continually advance and iterate around the things that we learn.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a key part of the work that we're doing and the kind of work that helps to drive authentic engagement. And it's through that authentic engagement that the learnings create better outcomes for the work that we do.
Did you have anything to add to that, Jordan?
Yeah, I think that's why there's such an alignment here, and also when we look at creating these plans is ensuring that that this is going to evolve. Reconciliation in its own right is it's not a place in time. So I think there has to be continuous evolution, and it takes strong stances like TAS in order to move the needle. So. I have to, respect, what Maz is saying in regards to, those words, because from a community perspective too, it's, there's economic opportunity and change that can happen within this period of time when we start to build relationships in a more meaningful way.
And just in terms of, let's say I'm a company that was a smaller construction company that don't want to work with a First Nation, how would they use this plan in order to help themselves ahead of that and then during the actual project they're working on?
Go ahead, Jordan. Why don't I let you take that one first?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think it kind of outlines the commitment from an organization, and it also, the fact that a company is going to take accountability on projects. It also has the ability to use that accountability, with the people that it's working with as well. Mm-hmm. So I think if organizations are, willing and able to work with communities, they can. And I think it's just you have to take ownership of that. I think organizations that set the standard like TAS in these regards, it opens the doors for others to really think in a similar manner. With that being said, the reconciliation practices of most organizations need to evolve as well. So like, how are we working with the people around us when you look at the future workforce, when you look at sustainable practices, that all exists within, our community relations. So I think that's really where, we can start to, see growth as a country is when we start to think that way.
Yeah, and I would just add, I think, what the way we view this is that coming from a place of privilege brings extraordinary levels of responsibility. And this wasn't about doing what's right for TAS. This was about doing something that we believe in. And part of that responsibility is to share it out and help others come along the journey. Smaller organizations who are not as far in their respective journeys, and being able to demonstrate that it is possible. A key part of it for us is that this is embedded in our DNA. We do believe that we are not owners of anything, but we're generational stewards. And in that role of stewardship, we need to be stewarding sort of the learnings and the teachings as much as anything else. And that is where I think a lot of the alignment comes with sort of Jordan and what he describes as part of the Indigenous values, and something that we closely share and hold in great regard.
And one other thing that during the emailing back and forth to get this all set up, I was talking about, it was mentioned that there's this misconception, which probably goes back to colonialism, about how all First Nations are against development, which is clearly not true. But maybe if you guys want to take the opportunity to prove through your work, I'm sure you've come across this, that's just not the case. And maybe this plan helps with that.
Yeah, I'll kind of take this one. I kind of go back to, English River First Nation, who wholly owns Creative Fire, when, 30 years ago, when the uranium mines were developing in their backyard, they took a stance of, we want to own our own businesses to train and develop our own people. And that's the only way that we're going to see change within the community. So I think, it really comes down to, what is the development opportunity actually look like? Are we engaging early enough in the process? Are we making the people around us aware of these projects and the potential opportunities that are in front of it. I think there's a lot of basic things that we look at now that we kind of take for granted sometimes in regards to how we go about working on a project. And we kind of see we live that ethos in regards to the core values of our community and businesses in regards to how we approach these relationships and look at development. And you have to understand too is there's historical issues that where development has caused some challenge and some difficult times. So I think there's a healing process that also is involved with that, and the way that we approach it has to be one that's very compassionate and transparent.
And I guess companies would just have to maybe wrap their heads around the fact this is not a monolith. There's tons and tons of nations all over this huge country. But anyway, I'm taking words out of your guys' mouth, which I shouldn't be doing. But
no, listen, I would sort of build on what Jordan is saying, is that our direct experience, has been quite enlightening for us. And I think the core element is that when there's unknown, there's fear. And through the processes that we've embarked with various Indigenous communities, the learnings we've had actually have sort of shed a light for us, which has been very profound. And it's quite obvious when I say it, but innovation requires grounded values. And our interactions have shown us how innovative the thought process of the Indigenous communities that we've dealt with have been. And it's because that their core values are so anchored in that they don't approach this from a retroactive sort of victim mindset, but one of progress and moving forward and collaboration for a better future, as opposed to a sort of resistance to because of past. And that, I think, is really critical in this. And the one thing that I would share with colleagues and with others who are sort of questioning the why and the how is that when you come with strong values and beliefs, it actually is liberating because you are not tied to the fears. And I think that's one thing that has been a key experience for us with our Indigenous partners, has been how much we've learned and how much they've added to our processes. And as a result of, we've ended with projects that are better, more engaging, and more interesting, to be honest.
Okay. And finally, you said this is a public report, or it's not a public report, but it is made available to the public. Where should people go to look at it?
It can be accessed through tasimpact.ca, our website, and you can sort of access both the Reconciliation Action Plan and our impact report and sort of see how the pieces all begin to tie together around the way we view the world.
And Jordan, if people are interested in Creative Fire, where should they go?
Yeah, you can reach us on many different social platforms. You can go to our website. You can also visit our community website or community-owned businesses as well through that. And even with regards to some of the work that we've done, especially with TAS, like we definitely share that on the social media platforms. And I think you can go to our website. You can check out who our people are, the work that we do, and how we're involved.
Okay, great. Thanks for joining us today, both of you.
Thanks so much, Warren.
Thanks for listening to the Construction Record Podcast. You can hear us on Apple Music, Amazon, and Spotify, as well as at theconstructionrecord.libsyn.com and on the Daily Commercial News and Journal of Commerce websites. Thanks again for listening.